Welcome to Award Winning Photography Explained. I'm your host, Manpreet. Today, we are talking to Jamie Poh. Jamie is an award winning and nationally accredited professional photographer with a background in digital, film, and video production. She's based in Burnaby, beautiful British Columbia. In 2019, she received her first accreditation with Professional Photographers of Canada, also known as PPOC, and she is known for her image Urban Jungle, featuring the skyline of Singapore at night, which took home a merit at the PPOC BC Image Salon. In 2021, she earned her commercial photography accreditation, as well as two Best in Class awards in architecture and fashion at the BC Image Salon. She is currently the chair of PPOC BC Lower Mainland. Welcome, Jamie. It's so nice to have you here in our studio today to talk about your incredible image, Urban Jungle. But before we get started with the image, tell us a bit about yourself, how you got started, and what kind of photography you do.
For sure. Thank you, Manpreet. Thanks for having me. A bit about myself. I got started in photography in high school. My dad lent me his little Nikon point and shoot camera, and I would take pictures of kind of random things, my friends, and things that were going on in my life during that time. Later on in high school, I would join a darkroom photography class. I joined the yearbook class, media club, which involved everything from doing photography to layout design, and then also video production. After high school, I actually ended up going to the taking the digital film and video program at the Art Institute of Vancouver. And when I graduated, I actually wasn't sure what I wanted to pursue at the time, and photography kind of came back and landed in my lap. So my career in photography actually started with me working at a photography store. I ended up working at a store called Black's Photography. And from there, my path towards running my own business began, and I started in wedding photography, which actually wasn't a plan. It wasn't something that I planned for after graduating from film school, but it kind of again fell on my lap, and I was looking for work on Craigslist and found an ad that another person had posted for. She had also graduated from film school, and so she was looking to hire a photographer for her wedding photo video business. And we hit it off. We ended up working together for 8 years doing weddings, and it was really, really awesome to learn and grow together. And since then, I've actually branched out on my own and started transitioning towards commercial photography. And just over the last few years and through the pandemic actually really expedited this transition for me, moving into more corporate commercial photography. Um, and within the commercial realm, I actually photograph mostly people. However, I do enjoy stretching my creativity into architecture, product, street photography.
Very nice. That's quite the story, Jamie. You sure have come a long way. Now, I understand you are an award winning photographer, nationally accredited with PPOC. Tell us in a couple of sentences, what is PPOC and what does it mean to be accredited through them?
Yeah, for sure. So PPOC, by definition on their website, is the Professional Photographers of Canada. And the definition of being accredited is that an accredited photographer possesses the experience, knowledge, and equipment to provide clients with a quality product in their area of expertise. For me, I think it's also something that gives me the ability to be proud of what I produce, to be able to speak in confidence to potential clients. I think a lot of photographers have what we call imposter syndrome, and I know I still do. But after becoming accredited, I feel less and less like an imposter. I'm able to own my own work and worth, and be proud of what I am able to produce.
I totally agree. It is one thing to have family and friends praise your work, but when a panel of judges who are extremely qualified put their stamp of approval on your image, that really is a boost to confidence.
Totally.
Now let us bring up your image that we are going to talk about. Tell us how you created this amazing image. What was your inspiration for this image? And how did you plan for it? How did you pre-visualize, or was it um, you know, just a caught on the spur of the moment shot?
For sure. So this image is a photo of the Singapore skyline, and I was on vacation with my family in 2018, 2019. Um, and the reason for capturing actually was resulted because a friend of mine had reached out. Her and her husband, they realized I was traveling at the time, and they're also from Singapore. I went to school with her, and she reached out just on Instagram and said, "Hey, you're in Singapore right now. We're actually considering getting a print enlargement done for our new house, and so would you be interested in taking a picture for us so we can enlarge it?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course." Um, and so when she reached out, I did a bit of research. I had never gone to do a skyline picture there before, and I was born there and I've traveled there a few times, but never went out to see photographing the skyline. So this was kind of a cool project to be able to go and have a plan to go and do. And so I did a little bit of Googling to figure out kind of where most people photograph the skyline and then where I could find an alternative, just because I wanted to see if there's a different vantage point I could get an image of the skyline from. And so there wasn't very much. There are a couple posts that people had shared, and there were a couple spots. And so I did do a little bit of research to figure out the angles, and then just kind of thinking of what the key architectural elements were that I wanted to be included. And so in this picture here on the left side, that's the Marina Bay Sands Hotel, the one that looks like the three skyscrapers with like a boat on top. And then also the Art and Science Museum, which is the lotus-shaped building. So yeah, I did end up doing a little bit of pre-planning. Yeah.
Okay, so why don't you take us through the actual capture process? This image, when you look at it, is it almost feels like you are there. But I love the way you have captured this image, and tell us a little bit more about the actual process. What gear did you use, and how did you shoot it?
Cool. Yeah, for sure. So for this shot, at the time, I was shooting with a Fuji X-T2. And when I travel, I bought the Fuji specifically for travel. And so I had the X-T2 and the 18-135 lens with me. I actually didn't have a tripod with me because I wasn't planning on capturing this until I was actually there. So I ended up going to a camera store and picked up a compact Sirui. Is that how you say it? Sirui tripod. Just a small kind of travel one. So that's what I shot with. For this shot, I ended up shooting 18 millimeters, so I could get as much as I could within the frame. And the cool thing with the Fuji cameras, actually maybe all their cameras, is that you can actually do in-camera panoramas. While this one was separate files stitched together, you can do panoramas as well in the Fuji.
I think those are the settings that you had used for this,
Yes.
right? The exposure I see in this would have been extremely challenging to manage. There is extreme highlights, there is deep shadows. So how did you manage to get it all together? How did you manage to retain high details in the highlights, details in the shadows? So tell us, how did you do that?
So everything was shot in RAW. You definitely want to shoot RAW to make sure that you are able to control and edit the images thereafter. So if I had shot this in JPEG, I definitely would not have had as much flexibility in editing the image afterwards. So I think you had these settings on there before, but the final shots that made the cut were f13. And just a side note, I think back then that's what I had it at. But now thinking back, I think I would have maybe gone a little higher. But you do what you can when you're there in the moment. It was ISO 250, and then I did an 8-second exposure, just a little longer, just so I could get a little bit more of a flow in the water. So I'll show you afterwards kind of the progression of how we ended up here, and the differences in what that looks like in the exposure length. What else here? So I shot in RAW. I kept my ISO low to reduce any noise in the skies and in the darks there. And yeah, long exposure to get kind of flow in the water in the front there. And then your second question was,
What are some of the obstacles that you encountered and how did you overcome them?
so there were a number of challenges. So just to kind of name them, the first off, I was born in Singapore, but I hadn't actually walked around that much as an adult, and so I did have to Google where to go. So the kind of locations were new to me. I did get a bit lost the first day I was shooting. And if you are from a tropical country, or if you've ever been to a tropical country, the weather is very, very humid and hot. And so that is what I dealt with. It's not like beautiful British Columbia where you can sit outside for hours and be pretty comfortable. So it was really hot. And then it did rain. So tropical island. Some of the other things were kind of deciding which spot I liked better. And we'll talk about that a bit later as well. Navigating the area on my own. I actually ended up taking 4 modes of transportation. I had to take a train to get down there. I ended up walking, which didn't get me very far. And then I rented a bike to try and get me further, which also didn't work. And then I also took a taxi. So 4 modes of transportation. Other challenges were kind of deciding which architectural elements to include. So I mentioned that there's kind of 2 kind of key architectural buildings here. On the right side, there's also that's the financial district in Singapore. But behind this building, there's actually also a garden, Gardens by the Bay, that is also an iconic, I guess, location for Singapore. And so kind of deciding whether I wanted that in the image, and then also the orientation. So whether I wanted it a standard landscape, panorama, and then finally the time of day. Did I want it during daylight or, like this in the evening? So those were all my challenges.
Yeah, but you've handled them really well.
Yeah.
I mean, the time of the day, the blue hour is perfect. You've balanced the sky and the buildings really well.
Oh, thank
And
you.
plus you've shown movement in the water. The Lotus building and the building on the left really stand out against the sky.
I will walk through the slideshow.
Yeah, that'll be wonderful if you can
Yeah.
take us through, how you shot this and a little bit about the post processing as well.
For sure. Okay. So yeah, this was the final image that we can see here on the slide. So this was the final image that ended up making the cut. So I ended up spending a couple days out shooting to get to the final image. And so this is kind of the very beginning. I had planned to go out a little earlier in the day, as we all do when we shoot landscapes and architecture. We want to make sure we're out there before the key time that we're able to shoot, which is magic hour, and then kind of leading into sunset. But again, kind of with the weather, like this is probably, I think, maybe 3 or 4 in the afternoon in Singapore, and it was very hot. And so the building in the back there, that's the Marina Bay Sands Hotel. And so I knew I needed to get there. But then again, when you're shooting landscapes and cityscapes, you don't really want to be right where the key elements are. You do want to be just away from it, far enough away that you can see it. So this is kind of me walking around trying to figure out the best vantage point. So I started on the east side of the water. So here you can see to the left, that's the Gardens by the Bay park. So that's one of the elements that I did end up deciding not to include. But this is kind of the beginnings of looking at what I wanted to include here. Kind of keep going. Then to the right here, you can see the Lotus building and then the financial district. So really hot during this time. So I was still on foot at this time. Um, Moving into, so I finally found this park. The biggest challenge was me trying to get across this body of water, and so walking didn't work, cycling didn't work, and so I took a taxi and told the taxi driver, I need to get to this park. Please take me there. So getting to the park, I actually did end up having to rent another bicycle to get to this point because the park's quite large, and so I knew that this was where I needed to be, but I needed to get there faster. So I tried a few things, kind of did this with the trees kind of framing, didn't quite like it. So then I kind of went closer, tried to get it without the trees. Still kind of wasn't quite right. I went a little closer to see if maybe I could get, so this here we have the Marina Bay Sands, we have the Lotus building. Here we have a new element here, which is the Singapore Flyer, which is that Ferris wheel on the side there. And then the financial district in the middle. I do like the shot, but wasn't quite there yet. Kind of moving into the evening here. So this is the first time I tried the panorama. This was just shot in camera on the Fuji. And so just to see kind of, okay, like, do I like this? And still wasn't quite there. At this point, I was exhausted and sweaty and just a mess. And to top it off, there was a giant rain cloud coming my way from the left there. And in Singapore, if there's a rain cloud, it's coming fast. So I decided to call it a day that evening and made my way back across the bridge. And good thing I did because there was thunder and lightning, and you can see the lightning in the
Oh, I
distance.
love that shot.
Thank you.
Yeah, the
So,
lightning through the Ferris wheel.
yeah. And
Meaningful.
so I had found a way to cross the bridge and got that right at the end there. So that was kind of cool.
Nice.
So yeah, called it a day. Didn't want to get caught in the storm.
So how I get it is this was a combination of process of elimination plus persistence on your part.
Yes, you have to be persistent.
Yeah. And then what happened?
Okay, so I called it a day. I went back and I did have one other day. You know, when you're traveling on vacation with family, it's hard to kind of pinpoint days to get out and shoot on your own. And so I had one more day that I had to myself to photograph. And so I went out a second day. So this is day 2. So this time I went from a different vantage point. So this is a more popular vantage point, I believe. Although there weren't very many people there, so maybe it wasn't. So this is on the other side of the hotel, and I was there probably around dinner time, actually just before dinner time, probably around the same time, maybe like 4 or 5 o'clock. So still quite sunny. Shooting on this side, you can see the Marina Bay Sands Hotel and then the Art and Science Museum. And so I just kind of waited. I shot through kind of the sun, full sun, and then the sun going down, and then the lights, watching the lights slowly turn on. So you can see kind of the progression here. Oh, so for this shot, between this one and the next one, I had changed the exposure length, I believe, here. So the water's more in focus here, and then kind of I tried a longer exposure here, so the water's a little smoother. Still wasn't quite there. So I just kept waiting and shooting through it. You can see the sky getting darker. And then I moved. So I ended up walking a little further down. But the shot still wasn't quite there just because there was distracting elements in the front. There's that kind of 3 towers in the front. So I ended up moving again and got rid of that. So this was getting close to my kind of key point in the night that I wanted to get my shot. And so, I shot through, and this was actually the first pano that I did, but it was very messy and cluttered, and I don't think I processed this one quite as refinedly. So this was one, but it felt busy. So kind of looking at the post-production after bringing everything home, this is what I ended up with. So it was actually 3 shots that made it into the final cut, and so these were the 3. I thought there were more. I thought maybe there were 5 or 6, but I guess there were 3. And this ended up going together in Lightroom, so it's just stitched it together. So this is what it looked like straight out of camera, stitched together.
Mm-hmm.
I really like the way the lights are. It's like a rainbow. So it's like the reds, and it kind of goes into the cooler colors. And then it ended up getting cropped a bit, and so things here that I ended up doing were kind of straightening lines, straightening horizons. You know, the building here is a little bit skewed, and so that I ended up straightening a little bit. This was still just one of the first edits, so straightening of lines kind of happened here. I added my own kind of color style to it, but it still wasn't quite there, and so I actually ended up working with my mentor within PPOC, Terrell, on the image. So I wanted to enter this one into the BC Salon. And so I worked with her to kind of figure out what elements still needed to be pushed a little further. And that's really what's really good about PPOC is when you work with a mentor, they're able to see things that you may not see. And so at the time when I shot this, I did not know. I knew some things about architectural photography, but not to the point that I do now. And so Terrell really helped me through that. So things like the clouds. So if we look at the first edit, so with the clouds, I ended up removing a lot of those within the buildings there. So those are all gone. Certain things with the lights, I actually did brush down and tone down. And within the Lotus building, there was actually some lines in it that I ended up removing. And with the clouds, I actually ended up smoothing, like making them a little bit smoother. They were kind of bunchy at the top there, so that ended up getting smoothened out. And then this is the image that ended up in Salon, so on the mat. And actually, I also ended up sending this one to the World Photographic Cup. So that one ended up in the semifinals for Canada.
Wow, that is really
Yeah.
really great. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So it's wonderful that PPOC also has a mentorship program.
Yes.
We get so close to our image that many times we cannot see things which another person can see, and
Oh,
somebody who's a little more experienced taking a second look really helps.
oh, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah,
they see things that are they seem small, but then when you look closer, it's like, oh, just remove that, and it really elevates your image that much
it
more.
does too. Yes. So you said you were in Singapore on holiday. um, when you're on holiday, how do you back up your images?
I usually bring a laptop. So I've tried a few things. I've tried wireless drives. I've tried tablets, but I still find that the laptop is still one of the best ways to back up. So I usually have, the project on my card, I have it on my laptop, and then I'll bring a small travel drive. So these days they make SSD drives that are tiny, very easy to carry around with you, and very fast. So usually I recommend definitely having, for clients, I usually keep the project on my card. I don't format on a laptop and then on the hard drive. So you have three forms of backup. For travel, maybe you're a little not as rigid with the backup, but it's always still good to have it, because what if you have an award-winning image in your
True.
on your card or on your drive, and you
Yeah.
never know if you
Well, I am also petrified till I get my images on at least, three different places.
Yep.
And that's the only time you can breathe a little easier.
Yes.
Okay. Now, let's go back to the full image, the final image. There you go. So, tell us about this competition that you got a merit in, and why did you select this image?
So the competition I entered was the 2019 PPOC BC Regional Image Competition.
Mm-hmm.
This was my second year entering. So the first year I entered a wedding image, and it scored a merit, and super excited. And so this year in 2019, I wanted to enter something a little different, knowing that I wanted to slowly move and transition into the commercial side of photography. And so I had spent so much time on this photo that I just, I wanted to see how it would fare. You know, what, you know, what was good about it, what you know, made it a really good image, and what I could improve on. And I actually learned quite a lot from this competition.
You know, this channel is all about competition and competition images. But tell us in your words, what, how did this competition help you? How did, you know, being a part of PPOC help you? And
Hmm.
how did uh, getting a merit in this competition, did it really help you in the rest of your photography?
For sure. Um, so I joined PBOC in, I believe, 2018. And since then, I have made so many different kinds of connections with different photographers. I'm generally someone who's pretty quiet and shy, and it took many years for me attending different photography conferences, trying different ways of networking to kind of break out of the shell to start meeting people in my field. And PBOC has really given me the community to be a part of, which is really awesome. Through competition, I feel like I've excelled exponentially faster in skills as a photographer than I did in the first, you know, 5 to 8 years shooting. Being able to listen in and hear what skilled professionals who have been in the industry far longer than I have to say about my work has really made me see things differently. I always have, you know, the critique kind of the back of my mind, and, you know, what would they say if, you know, I did it this way, or um, it's obviously not the easiest thing to put your work out in front of people to get critiqued. But like pushing through those has really, and being open-minded has really helped me grow as a photographer.
Oh, for sure, I can see, yeah, I can see that you right now are an extremely talented photographer,
Thank you.
and uh, let's just get this get you back up there.
Mm.
So, what would you say to a new photographer, or even a photographer who has been wanting to improve their skills? Would you suggest something like um, an image competition would help them?
Oh, totally. Yeah. Like I said, I think, you know, I didn't enter any work into competition for a long time.
Mhm.
I think I did a few kind of small ones, but not in front of a panel of judges that have been in the industry for this long. Um, I think entering competition really challenges you to, I don't know, be vulnerable, I guess, as a photographer. You're putting your work, like, we're all artists, you
Yeah,
know.
it's
Artists are,
nerve-wracking
well, we
sometimes.
can be sensitive and delicate and very protective of our work. But putting it out there really allows you to grow because
Mhm.
you're learning. You know, we're
Yeah.
not perfect, and we're always learning, and that's the path. Well, that's what makes photography special, and what the growth of being in it and getting better and learning.
Yes.
Um, yeah.
I guess it's failing first, and you know that failing and learning from that is what teaches us photographers a lot and helps us improve, so that the next time we enter a competition and we're given proper feedback, it really makes a big difference.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Fail first and fail fast, and then pick yourself up fast and do it again.
absolutely, absolutely. So tell us, where can you know our viewers reach you, follow you? Um, are you on some social media? Do you have a website?
Absolutely. Yeah. I have my website. It's jamiepoh.com. And you can find me on
Excellent.
Instagram, Jamie Poh Creative. I have Facebook as well, but usually I hang out on Instagram.
Okay, excellent. I'll also put these links in the notes below. Well, thank you so much, Jamie. That was an incredible talk. We'll be putting out these interviews weekly, so make sure to subscribe and like. And thank you all very much.
Yay.